Alrighty, happy Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Morning Jocks. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell with you for the next hour as we get you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning coming up at 7 a.m. Had a great afternoon of football yesterday. Two Monday night football games. One was a game that was played between the Titans and the Dolphins. And the other game between the Lions and the Seahawks was exactly what you would expect to get from Monday Night Football action. So, got a lot of things to dive into. But before we break down what happened last night, we want to take you back to yesterday and let you listen in to Hugh Freeze's weekly press conference as he not only discussed some of the aftermath of the Oklahoma loss, some of the play calling criticisms that have come the Auburn Tigers' way, not running the ball maybe as much as some people in the fan base think they need to run the football. So got to hear a lot of good things from Hugh Freeze yesterday, as well as his preview of the matchup against the Georgia Bulldogs coming up this weekend here in the SEC. So let's take you back to yesterday down on the plains of Auburn. This is Hugh Freeze in his weekly press conference addressing the media and getting the fan base ready as Auburn prepares to take on Georgia this weekend.
That man, Saturday hurt our kids, our staff, and I'm sure it hurt our incredible fans who have been just to have 5 straight home games to open the season have been just marvelous. They've been, and our students and band cheerleaders just they've been incredible, and I'm sure they were hurt just like our kids felt gutted, and staff and everybody a part of it. So. We're judged on results, and it's my responsibility to bring results to this program that restore its glory, and that builds, not only restores the glory of the Auburn football team on the field, but also I firmly believe that part of my job is to build up Auburn men, and that is one thing that I do believe and see occurring even through the hardships that we're going through, and it's something that we take very seriously, and when you talk to them, I feel like we're accomplishing good things there. Now, obviously, we want to add to not only building up men first, but returning the glory to Auburn football. We're working tirelessly to do both, truthfully. That's why I teach truth lessons on Monday and Thursday about life, the lessons we can learn from the game of football for that. Our fan base has done their part, which makes not being 5-0 very hard to swallow when we certainly had our chances to do that. My ask is to stick with us through the growing pains and support our guys and efforts and our recruiting efforts because the results are going to come. We're not that far off, and hope the 25 recruiting class sees that and knows they have a chance to come in and immediately impact this program just like the 24 class is currently doing. But building does take time. I think you all are aware of what we inherited. Our AD has done a marvelous job of explaining that, and he did to me before I took the job with the previous recruiting classes not being what you need to compete at a high level, and 57 transfers out in the previous 3 years before my arrival. So building takes time. But our process, when complete, is going to make everyone very, very proud and to wear the orange and blue. It's making ground. The process is. I see it. The record doesn't reflect it. Even when playing, 12 freshmen and I think combination of the 49 guys that played Saturday, there was 24, if you count our kicker, 24 freshmen and sophomores that played the majority of the snaps, and I use that for my recruiting pitch. We'll play you early. So let's finish this 25 class up and give us some more depth that we need to compete in this great conference. we must continue to get better in every facet, and that's my job, including coaching situational football better, putting our players in the best possible situations for their abilities to provide them success. Doesn't really matter if I think something's a great call, great decision, if it doesn't match up with the capabilities of our young men, and I can't put them in those situations. And I told our players post-game that I couldn't be more proud of them, their effort, their preparation. They deserved to win that game, and they played their guts out, and can't fault a single play on that film on effort. And told our staff that honestly it's one of the better game plan that a staff has put together in my time. The offensive guys under Coach Nix and Kent and Jake and Ben and Marcus and obviously all the supporting staff. I thought the plan was excellent. I thought the plan on defense was excellent, and I was proud of both the players and the staffs. It was a really good plan. There are many positives to build from that game. If you look at 90% of the plays, there's a lot of really good things that I hope can carry over as we get ready for a top-ranked team in Georgia. We certainly can't let the hurt and the sting of losing a game that you feel like you should have won tarry too long, because we've got some very tough tasks facing us coming up with 2 top 10 teams on the road. Be our first October's a road challenge for us. We haven't experienced that yet, and again, as we mentioned earlier, we're playing about 50% of our guys are young guys, and they haven't experienced what we're getting ready to experience. So that's going to be a challenge for us, but one that we're looking forward to and be excited to do. Some great positives from Saturday. I mean, DeMarcus Riddick led us in tackles. True freshmen Simmons and Coleman combined for almost 150 yards receiving. Offense had 26 first downs, I believe, and almost 500 yards of offense. And defense held them to 290 yards and 2 for 11 on third downs, which is a huge improvement from the previous weeks on our third down work. And man, it's just it's frustrating to sit here and tell you all that and to know what the results are. That's the complicated thing of taking ownership of that and still pointing out the positives. Whether it's that, I mean, offensively we're number 3 in the conference for fewest penalties. We're number 5 in the conference for passing. We're number 1 in the conference for explosive pass plays per completion. We're number 5 in total offense, or maybe that's 8 total offense, and 5 in yards per carry. I mean, there's a lot of positives that are not matching up with the results. There's some negatives too. We're 16th in the conference in time of possession. We're 16th in turnover margin, and that's the things that have really cost us. We lost the 3 games we've lost by an average of 7.7 points, and in those games have had 11 turnovers, and so there's a lot of positives to build upon. And extremely proud of the effort that our kids and staff gave to prepare for a really good football team in Oklahoma, particularly defensively. They're one of the best, and now we and thankful again for our wonderful fans and their support. And now we got to get ready for a very difficult Georgia team who's loaded with talent and experience and maturity, and obviously well coached, and great respect for Kirby, the job he's done, and the classes that he's stacked there make them one of the nation's elite.
Hugh, what is, from a coaching perspective, what is your biggest regret from the Oklahoma game? Is there a call or a situation?
Yeah, I'm very transparent. I've watched it like 3 times, and I usually stop at 2. But all right, let's start at first half. Easily could have been 24-7 at half. We get down inside I guess to the 1 or 2, had 2 shots from there and went with a package that we've been working for several weeks, and truthfully regret not giving it to Jarquez down there at least once. You're going to miss some field goals. Been nice to have, got that one right before half for sure. It was not certainly he's very capable of making those, and but that happens. So kind of the first half, it's really the not scoring the touchdown that thought the offense did a good job get us in field position to kick the field goal. I thought that was a really good drive. Did not. This is a weird situation, but the play right before we had to go Mayday, and it was good to see us. We executed Mayday really well. You just didn't really want to have to do that. The ball should have went to the end zone, but that really wasn't Peyton's fault because. The one scenario I'm getting way into, but I want to own everything that needs to be owned. There was a look that they would give from time to time that our whole plan was we've got to check to a max call to get us protected, but that was a third down thought, and with that came. As soon as he gave the signal for max, with that came all the routes. And so the call I had made to take the shot to the end zone when he had to go max, it reverted to the third down routes in normal scenario, which wasn't terrible because we were prepared for Mayday, and you got to go out there and make those. But there's so many things that dang happen in a game. Then you're like, oh my gosh, we had a great plan for that on third down, but we didn't talk about it being third down with one play to go. And so you learn from that. But that's the first half. The second half, truthfully, loved the plan. Thought it was effective. The 2 3rd and 4s, one's in the third quarter where we missed another field goal. Wish we had a sack that pushed us back a little bit on that 3rd and 4. Wish I would have just played it like 2 down territory and maybe ran it and see if I could have got it to 4th and 1. And then obviously the 3rd and 4 interception for a touchdown. In hindsight, wish I'd have just controlled it and ran it and punted it.
That was Hugh Freeze yesterday down there on the plains of Auburn, giving his weekly press conference ahead of Auburn's matchup with Georgia. You heard Hugh Freeze. Honestly, a little refreshing from what we heard over the last couple of press conferences. Him, owning up to some of the play calling, saying he should have handed it off to Jarquez. I know that's something that a lot of people were questioning there on that 4th and goal play early on in the game. But a little bit of a different tone from Hugh Freeze yesterday as he, took some accountability for some of the struggles that we've seen Auburn have here lately. So we're going to head to a quick break. When we come back here on Jocks 94.5, myself, Damian Mitchell, we're going to break down what we saw last night, give you a little bit of our thoughts on what we heard from Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze yesterday, and get into some Monday Night Football action. So keep it locked right here to Morning Jocks. You're listening to Jocks 94.5. 6:18. Welcome back into Morning Jocks here on Jocks 94.5. We're listening to the Dan Campbell song.
I've never heard this day in my life.
Yeah, this is a Detroit staple right here, baby. The Dan Campbell song. Yeah, shout out to whoever made that. Every now and then during football season, I like to break that out. It's on YouTube for anybody that wants to go listen to it. It's just called the Dan Campbell song, and that I would say that attitude probably applied last night to Monday Night Football, as you had two games last night, Damian. I know one of them you were more interested in. Unfortunately, that was the game that was terrible. And then you had the Lions and Seahawks. The Lions and Titans coming out victorious last night on Monday Night Football. Jared Goff, 18 of 18.
Perfect. Sounds like perfection.
He was pretty good. I would just say I went into last night. I needed 40 points to win in fantasy football, and I have a lot of Detroit Lions players on my fantasy team.
Baby.
And if you watched the game last night, all they did was score touchdowns. So I won my fantasy matchup thanks to that wonderful offense of the Lions last night. But that the Lions Seahawks game, Damian, that was one of the better NFL games I've seen so far this year.
Yeah, it was. And if anything, you look at what Detroit is, and it kind of seems as though they're picking up right where they left off last season. That's probably the most complete game that you've seen from the Detroit Lions. And I mean, Jared Goff looked dialed in, and it was, I mean, they got a little fun with it. They had some, of course, the reverse pass and things like that. But I was impressed. I came away impressed from how Detroit is now being the hunted, and they appreciate it. Like, they still, in their minds, I mean, Dan Campbell's playing the psychological warfare of, you remember who you are. You're the Detroit Lions. He's giving them a tough little gritty edge to them. But I think most of the NFL is like, okay, yeah, this ain't the same. This ain't your Matthew Stafford-led Detroit Lions on the other side. This team is legit. And they got weapons all over the place. And I think what you saw with Amon-Ra St. Brown, you see Jameson Williams, and like the pieces that they have, they're so explosive. So if you're Jared Goff, it's all about just literally giving them the ball and let them do what they need to do. And you saw that when he goes 18 for 18. Literally, perfection. Didn't have an incompletion the entire game. All 4 quarters, y'all. No incompletions.
Yeah, over the last 2 games now, he also hasn't thrown an incompletion in the first half. Going back to last week's game as well.
He got that dog in him.
I was about to say they've been dialed in, and the Lions are starting to look again like that team last year that, I mean, honestly, at this point, they're probably the favorites in the NFC, just because you have a lot of question marks with, the 49ers, and is Christian McCaffrey going to walk again? It seems like is the, I say that tongue in cheek, but it feels like every time we hear about Christian McCaffrey's injury, it gets worse and worse. It goes from, he'll be out a week or two, to now he's got Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs, and he's been dealing with this for years, and he had to go to Germany to see a specialist, and anyways. But yeah, I mean, as far as, the typical teams in the NFC go, the Eagles aren't looking great. I don't know you might buy into the Vikings right now, but are you going to buy into Sam Darnold in January? I don't know. So the Lions certainly look like the team, or at least one of the teams in the NFC to beat, as we expected coming into the year. But I mean, I'll give credit to the Seahawks. Like, I mean, they were undefeated coming into the game last night. And, Geno Smith, he had 395 yards passing last night, added about 40 on the ground as well. I was pretty impressed with what the Seahawks were able to do. And, I think now we can agree that things are going pretty well in Tuscaloosa. But, I guess it's good to see Ryan Grubb enjoying his time there in Seattle, since he didn't he only liked Tuscaloosa enough to stay for a week or two. That's all right. But it's good to see that offense going, and still, I'm just so blown away by Geno Smith and what he's been able to do to turn around his career and turn into, not only, I mean, it'd be one thing if he had just turned into a starting quarterback in the NFL again, but I mean, he's turned into a Pro Bowl caliber starting quarterback, and it's been really, really cool to see. But you had, some Alabama and Auburn action last night. You got Carlton Davis had the big fumble recovery for the Lions. You had Jahmyr Gibbs have a couple touchdowns on the ground last night in that game. So Alabama and Auburn well represented there. And there was
another game.
There was another game.
There was.
Started early, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, Damian. Once the Lions and Seahawks game started, I would occasionally flip back to the Titans and Dolphins game, but from at least what I saw of watching probably the first hour of that game, dear God.
Listen, one, you could basically say I'm like an Auburn fan. I refuse to believe that, I believe that my quarterback was actually going to be better this season. I really did. I guess I should just actually trust my eyes. I see it now. I see it. I was blinded by the two-tone blue, and I was like, hey, we're putting all these pieces around him. He's going to have success. No, he's not, because the first possession of the game for the Tennessee Titans ended pretty much like every other possession we've had with Will Levis as our quarterback, with an interception. And this is where I get frustrated.
Got to get that thigh strength up, man.
I don't even know how you even make the throw. There were two Miami Dolphins on a hitch route sitting at D-Hop.
It was a bad throw.
And he throws it directly to him.
Yeah,
directly to him. And then he had an injury. I put injury in quotation marks. But I think that was kind of the easy way out of like, hey, big dog, you just go ahead and rest up. We'll make sure that Mason at least maintains what we have. And the Tennessee Titans knock off the Miami Dolphins 31-12. I was happy, but we'll probably be drafting within the top 5 if we continue to play in the way that we're looking. If our season is hanging on the fact that Mason Rudolph is going to be our starting quarterback, we're not where we need to be as an organization. And
you get to take another quarterback.
Yeah, and we start the process all over again. And
yep, that's
it's a Tennessee thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad when I already see people saying, maybe they should trade DeAndre Hopkins, and maybe you should just start, kind of
just
moving some pieces and building for the future, because
it's bad.
It's not pretty. I mean, I guess the good side is, you did score 21 points in the second half.
There we go.
After it was 9-3 at halftime, so that's
what we do, baby.
Yeah, that's something. You got a good field goal kicker.
Yeah, Nick Folk, he still got it.
Yeah.
Old baby Legatron, that's what we call him.
He's probably your best player offensively right now, so that's good. But hey, you got your first win of the season.
And we'll take it. And we're ahead of the Jaguars.
And you are ahead of the Jaguars. And yeah, I mean, I told you this last night, look, I'm not going to sit here and try to act like Tua was the best quarterback in the NFL before he got hurt, but he was pretty good. And I mean, you can see the Dolphins, granted, it is their fault for not having a backup plan when you have a quarterback with a serious injury history. That's on them, but they're bad. I mean, without somebody to throw Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and all those guys the ball, and without there being a pass threat to kind of help out A-Chain in the run game, they are
not a good team.
They are not a good football team. And it's going to be a long road for them. And, we'll see what happens with Tua if he comes back in 2 weeks when he's off IR, if he comes back later in the season, if he, decides to not come back at all this season, whatever it ultimately ends up being. It's going to be a long season to be a Dolphins fan.
It is. And
you feel for him because,
kind of.
Not
after last night, of course not, but as an organization.
Okay, yes. I was about to say, as an organization as a whole, and I don't know, this is kind of a weird year in the NFL. It just feels pretty wide open right now, and you have to imagine with Tua, they'd be right there in the mix of things as opposed to being one of the worst teams. They're not as bad as the Jaguars, or the Titans, I guess now, but
no,
they're right there.
I've seen the head-to-head, and also, fun fact: Will Levis is 2-0 on Monday nights. You know whose 2 wins are against?
Are they both against the Dolphins?
They're both against the Dolphins, baby. if we go to Miami on a Monday, you can go ahead and lock it in as Titans victory. Just throwing it out there. But no, we are going to struggle. We are going to struggle for the rest of the season because all the pieces that we have, they're good. But if we don't have a quarterback to distribute the ball to them, we just
Will Levis's QBR last night was under 1. It was 0.8. It was a decimal. Not even a whole number.
So you're telling me that he can only get better from this point forward?
I'm not going to say that because what I've seen the last 3 weeks, I would have said the exact same thing, and here we are still. So no, I think that the floor, the floor and the ceiling might actually be the same for Will Levis. I don't know if I've ever said that about a player before, but I really think his floor and ceiling are the same.
And
He lives in a one-story house. Let's put it that way.
Man.
Not a lot of room to go up there.
I tweeted out yesterday. I was like, please, somebody bring up my old tweets about Will Levis in college and just let me go back to why I was not a fan of him. And then when I see him go out there against a bad Atlanta Falcons team last season, it's like, okay, well, we can build from that. And we tried. And
I get it. It's your team. You have to talk yourself into it because otherwise you're just, going to be miserable. So I understand. It's the same thing like you said with Auburn. I totally get it.
it is.
I totally get it. But
the
you
only thing
also
is-
have to be able to look back and say, well, I'm not really surprised that I'm here.
Yeah,
right
like you kind of have to just accept what comes with it. But it is what it is. Titans win. Hey, how about the Atlanta Braves? They won the first game.
Well,
They had it in the bag until they didn't. And then they came back for the second game to lock up a playoff spot. Now, if you are a Braves fan, I will say this. You have the San Diego Padres, and
they're pretty good.
they're riding kind of hot. But listen, it's Shoptober. So at this point, all you got to do is win one and see where it goes. At least try to get one.
Yeah,
You get the first one, I think that it opens the gates a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean,
could.
the first game's always the most important in these kinds of series. The bad news, if you're the Braves, is your best pitcher is probably not going to be available for the wild card round. Hopefully, something changes, but I can only imagine the, I guess, roller coaster of emotions that you had Braves fans going through yesterday, where you get out to that early lead in game one, you're feeling good, you're like, oh man, we're going to be able to rest Chris Sale. He's going to be good to go for Tuesday. This is going to be great. And then,
And that old
the
bat.
Mets come back, and then the Braves go back up. And then Lindor comes back and hits the home run, the go-ahead home run there that ultimately wins it for the Mets. And then you find out going into game two, oh, we got our ace. We got the Cy Young winner in the NL going. We are good to go, and he has back spasms. And if you're watching the game, you heard Buster Olney throughout the game trying to kind of give updates to his status. And essentially what I got from it was if he's not pitching right now, it's not a good sign, and it doesn't likely mean that he will be able to pitch tomorrow, because if he could, push through the pain, so to speak, he would have done that yesterday. So we'll see what happens on that front. But hey, you made it in.
That's all that matters.
That's anything is it's all ahead of you right
Exactly.
now. And as as a lot of people remember, last year both of the teams in the World Series they were wildcard teams. So
So you're saying there's a chance?
there is a chance. I don't know if I would put my money on the Braves, but there's a chance.
There we go.
So that's that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. We want to hear from you. You can text, you can call in. Have some fun with us this morning. We're going to hear from, we have heard from Hugh Freeze in the first segment, kind of dissect what he had to say and also hear your reaction as well. Keep it locked right here on Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5. 6:36 here on Morning Jocks, Jocks 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and of course you as well, 205-834-9450. I guess it's time to, Conrad, you can continue to celebrate after the victory Alabama had over Georgia this weekend, but Georgia welcomes in the other side of the state with the Auburn Tigers taking a trip to Athens this weekend.
Are you
and
saying that we're just going to look past Vanderbilt?
Alabama's a 23-point favorite against Vanderbilt.
Okay.
I think that'll be okay. I think you'll be all right there. And how about Georgia opening up as hear me out when I say this, y'all. Georgia at home against the Auburn Tigers are a 24-point favorite.
I might be on the Auburn side of things.
I look at it like this. After, we don't talk about, quote unquote, sending messages. What Alabama did to Georgia last Saturday in front of everybody, we saw that. I felt bad for any team that had to play Georgia right after that. It just so happens to be the Auburn Tigers that are making that trip to Athens. And I don't think Carson Banks is going to see as many ghosts as he did last week. And I think there's going to be a sense of I feel like Georgia's going to inflict a lot of pain on Auburn this weekend. I think a lot of hurt that happened in Tuscaloosa, Auburn has to be the beneficiary of that. Not to say that Auburn won't be competitive, but I can see that game getting real out of hand later on.
No, I completely get that. I guess my rationale is, I thought that's what we were going to see. I thought Georgia was going to be like a bat out of hell on Saturday.
True.
After what happened against Kentucky in the last game. I thought that was one of the worst things that could have happened, I guess, from the Alabama perspective, is Georgia struggling against a Kentucky team, and then you play them next, and it's, okay, you're going to figure everything out and take it out on Alabama. But as we saw in the first half, at least, they just look kind of shell-shocked. And so I'm not saying that I expect them to do that again this weekend. It's just, are we going to get the Georgia that we saw in the second half? We're going to get the Georgia we saw in the first half, or we're going to get something in the middle. And I think we're probably going to get something in the middle, because I think that's more so where Georgia is, because while, you have to give them all the credit in the world for what they did in the second half on Saturday, I think we can also agree that, Alabama was clearly giving them things in the second half, and just kind of, it wasn't the same as it was in the first half. That doesn't take anything away from Georgia and the fact they were able to come back and take the lead. That was still super impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're not going to, Auburn's not going to be playing, prevent defense against you in the third quarter, right? So, that will be a very interesting game, but that line is very interesting for where it is.
It's thick.
It is quite thick. It is. But, hey, I'm just saying, last time we saw these teams play.
Yeah. And that was with Brock Bowers on the field. And he
took over. Kind of the reason that Georgia, won that game. Not saying that they wouldn't have won it without him, but, he took over when he had to at the end of the game.
Absolutely. And of course, the text line phone lines are open, 205-834-9450. Somebody texted in and said, can we call this a get-right game for Georgia?
Yeah,
possibly.
I think you saw a lot of that in the second half, but also, wouldn't be a bad time to go out there and win by 40 and remind everybody how good you are.
Yeah, and I think this is where the text line is starting to go, because Richard texts in, he says, Georgia's going to toe tag Auburn. And then Lewis doubles down, and he says, Georgia will try to break the scoreboard. I'm just going to put it like this. For Auburn, this could be an uncomfortable situation to be in, because the first 5 games of the season you were at home and you're 2-3. You're kind of a wounded animal going to the Georgia Bulldogs right now, and how much of a disdain they really just want to get that stain off of the Alabama game off their plate.
Yeah.
And you just so happen to be the team coming in, and I will say, you're sitting in the crosshairs.
Yes. I will say my biggest concern, I think, for Auburn is, if you go back to the game on Saturday, and I understand it wasn't a huge part of the game plan, because a lot of Alabama's rushing attack came from Jalen Milroe, but they held Alabama's tailbacks to 50 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a hot take to say that Alabama has a better offensive line than Auburn does. And, so that would be where my concern would come in is, all right, if Jarquez is kind of neutralized or very, very limited in what he's able to do, if you're Georgia, what do you want to do? You want to force Peyton Thorne to beat you through the air, right? And I'm not saying that he can't do that and he can't go out there and play a clean football game, but if you're not really getting anything in the run game and it is going to fall on Peyton Thorne and his arm, I think the potential for turnovers is obviously going to be there based on what we've seen so far this season. And, it's going to come down to him playing a clean game. And that would be my biggest concern if I'm an Auburn fan.
Matt just texted in and he brings up a great point. He said the last time Georgia lost the heartbreaker to Alabama, they beat a Florida State team so bad they still haven't remembered how to play football.
That is also a good point.
So Auburn, you got your work cut out for you, but hey, this is SEC. It's the SEC. You never know what to expect. And Auburn hasn't beaten Georgia in Athens since 2000, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a minute, but hey, you never know what could happen.
Maybe, they hadn't beaten LSU and Baton Rouge in 20-something years, and Brian Harsin did that. So
Bo Nix did that.
Well, yes.
Bo Nix was the quarterback. Peyton Thorne going into Georgia. Let's go to the phone lines, 205-834-9450. Let's talk to Ronnie. He wants to talk some ball with us this morning. What's going on this morning, Ronnie?
How y'all doing, man? I'm the one man that called after the first win and said I was ready for Georgia.
Yeah.
The segment went off, and then I called back, and, oh, man, he told me, way to admit it, and I called like a man. I'm calling now, man, because I grew up an Auburn fan all my life. And a guy told me a while ago that we kind of only care about being Alabama, and it's kind of selling on me because since the 2000s, man, we couldn't get it in 05 because of Oklahoma and USC, and then Cam bought it home in 10, then Nick Marshall, we fell short. But in 24 years, man, it's only been one championship. So it weighs on you as a fan, man, because they promise you these expectations, and they just never pan out, man. Like, I'm even wondering if our wide receivers go stay with us after the season.
Yeah.
I'm just expressing today. I didn't call to make no point.
Hey, man, this is a safe space, brother. This is a safe space.
It's only thing that makes me good. I'm a 49er fan, so we okay on that. But with my Tigers, man, it's hard to watch the games, and I feel even worse this week because Georgia's got to let some frustration off.
Yeah, it's not favorable.
My Tigers are just so happen right there, man. I thought it was a 23.5 favorite. I heard you now it's 24.
It's 24.
So, yep, y'all keep up the good work, man. Just one sad Auburn fan, man. They just want to win. That's all.
It's all good, brother. We are here for you, man. It's
all right, Ronnie. You're not alone in that. And
yeah,
I think there's a lot of people that share a similar sentiment to that. But hey, I will still say let's be honest. You're stuck with Hugh Freeze. Like anybody that's out there saying, "Oh well, I hope Hugh Freeze gets fired this year," that's not happening. So my concerns would be recruiting and guys leaving in the portal. But if you're able to limit that from happening, I still think, Auburn's still in a better situation than they have been for years. And again, I think Saturday was a good representation that you do need better players, particularly at the quarterback's position. But, let's be honest, that offense on Saturday, when they didn't turn the ball over, before they had turned the ball over, they were playing quite well. And I brought this up yesterday. Statistically, they put up better numbers against that defense than Tennessee did. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying Auburn's better than Tennessee if they don't turn the ball over, but that just kind of goes to show this can be one of the better offenses in the SEC and in the country when things are going right. You just got to get the right pieces in place. And, I think a big part of it for Hugh Freeze is you need to identify somebody this offseason in the portal that you can bring in at the quarterback position. And I don't care how much money they're going to cost you. You need somebody that can come in and immediately make an impact because that's how you're going to get guys to stay, right? it's going to be a hard sell, in my opinion, for a guy like Cam Coleman to say, hey, 2 years from now, this Deuce Knight guy might be really, really good. We can't wait to see what you look like in that offense. And if you're him, you're going, man, I'm trying to go the NFL. Like, I don't have 2 years to sit here and give you to wait on you to find a quarterback. Like, I need a guarantee that right now we can get this thing going. And I think that's going to be the huge test for Hugh Freeze. And I think he realizes that. But we also, don't know what the player and the market's going to look like at the end of the season. But I think that's kind of got to be your priority, is you want to show these guys over the rest of the season that they have a role and they're going to get their touches, but you also need to, make them feel good about what the future is going to hold as well. But we see y'all blowing up the phone lines. Want to hear from all of you, get your thoughts on what's going on there on the plains of Auburn, as well as what's going on in Tuscaloosa with the Alabama Crimson Tide. So we hear from you next when we come back here on Morning Jocks 94.5.
Ah, you fooled me. You fooled me.
That wasn't the vibe.
you had me in the first half. You had me in the first half.
I was listening and I was like, nah.
Conrad's supposed to come back to a Celine Dion song, y'all. Just throwing that out there. He had me in the first half. I heard it play during the break. I was like, oh, yeah, we can go back to that. It was like, nah.
Nah, Huey Lewis in the news. That's the vibe.
We'll go with it. 205-834-9450. Welcome back into Morning Jocks. Let's go to the phone lines. Y'all are locked and loaded, ready to talk on this Tuesday. Let's go to Rich, who wants to talk some ball with us this morning. What's going on this morning, Rich?
Boys, you just talking about Auburn football, just in our misery, just like last couple of years we've been in.
Yeah, it's I will say, coming into this season, I even fell victim to, okay, Auburn, at worst case scenario at this point, I was expecting 4-1 because you were probably going to end up splitting between Oklahoma and Arkansas. But I didn't see 2-3 at any point at all.
I'll be honest with you. I think all Auburn fans drunk the Kool-Aid and got, bought into the hype, because going into the season, this was going to be a senior-led Auburn team. They got a lot of seniors on this team. We all bought in. Hugh Freeze, the big moves was he's going to bring in his own guys that knew his system. Philip Montgomery was no longer there because that was supposedly the issue. They're going to work with Peyton Thorne. They had a quarterback coach that he was used to. We all bought into the hype. And now, even though the offensive from a statistic standpoint looks better, we still had the same issues that we had last year.
Yep.
Bad offensive line play, poorest quarterback play, bad call play, and bad strategy sometimes. And even Hugh Freeze said last night that, he should have ran Jarquez more. Well, you should have run him more, in the Cal game too,
Yep.
and you didn't. I mean, when is he going to be called out on this? It's poor coaching, poor evaluation on Peyton Thorne. And I was thinking about this on the way home, and, I've heard this on this station. We've got, how long has Peyton Thorne been a quarterback coach? I mean, a college quarterback?
This is his fourth year as a
4
starter.
years, dog.
4 years. We've got 4 full years to see that Peyton Thorne is nothing but an average quarterback. We've got one full game and barely a half of showing what Hank Brown could do. And it was, what do you expect? He has no game experience. You're going to look like a freshman. I think it's a very unfair assessment of a kid that's got less playing time than a captain, quote unquote, that has all this film on him, and we all know he's average.
Yep. Hey, man, Rich, we tried to tell you last year, and it was the receiver's fault. So
Look, I still think Peyton Thorne gives you the best chance to win. I sure as hell would not want to throw out Hank Brown against Georgia.
Oh no.
And at this point, you can't keep flip-flopping between. Like, you have to stick with a guy and just live with the situation. And, Peyton Thorne gives you the best chance to win. Does that mean you're going to win a lot of games? Unfortunately, it doesn't look that way, but he does give you the best chance to win because when he plays a clean game, he can be pretty good. He can be effective, but he's got to play a clean game. And, to be fair, in the offseason, all we can really go off of is what the coaches are saying and what you're hearing from people that are around the program, and it was all positive.
Yep, absolutely. Let's go to Montreal, who wants to talk some ball with us this morning. What's going on, Montreal?
What's going on with you guys?
What's happening, brother?
Well, my main thing is I've seen Alabama win a lot of games in the season, big games, and then, kind of like we don't prepare well after winning the big games, like maybe after LSU, and then lose against somebody who we thought we could handle easily. Like, how do you think the board go about settling everything down and just keeping everybody on earth? That's all I want to say.
Yeah, we got you.
They put rat traps in the athletic facility yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, Vandy has gotten better, but
I'm not gonna look. Anything is always possible, but I will give credit where credit. Like for Alabama, they don't lose those kinds of games. I'm not saying they can't. They can look sloppy
and still beat them by 28.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. But hey, who knows, man? That's why we play the game. Mac and Cube is next.